Alright, so question number 13 asks you to determine the mass of a protein based on a mass spectrum that's shown here, this ESI mass spectrum. So in order to do this, we need to use these two equations that are shown down here. P1 equals m plus z over z, and P2 equals m plus z minus 1 over z minus 1. And we need to select two adjacent peaks. So the peak to the left is going to end up being P1, the peak to the right will be P2. Alright, we're going to start on the left side here with P1. Alright, so as we move down, so we can take the mass of P1, m over z value, and put it in here for P1. So 2756, that's where the first peak is. And that's equal to m plus z over z. Now, we can do the same with P2 on the right, and we would have 3307 is equal to m plus z minus 1 over z minus 1, but we're not going to deal with that quite yet. Alright, so basically what you should realize is that we have two equations here, both of which have two different variables. So we need to solve these as a system of equations. So we are going to take the one on the left here and solve it for one of the two variables. And once we've done that, we can plug this into the equation on the right. So if we took this 2756 equals m plus z over z and multiply both sides by z, we end up with 2756z is equal to m plus z. Then we can subtract z from both sides, and you get 2755z is equal to m. All right, so now we've solved this equation here for m, right, in terms of z. So we know that now m is equal to this. All right, now what we can do is start to use our second equation, and anywhere we see m in the second equation, we'll replace it with 2755z. All right, well, first of all, we have the second peak, so P2 is equal to 3307 from our mass spectrum up here. All right, and then again, we have this m here, which we're going to replace as 2755z. And then we have plus z minus 1 over z minus 1. Well, 2755z plus z is now 2756z. All right, and so we simplify it down to this version down here. Once we're at that version, we can now multiply both sides of the equation by the quantity z minus 1. All right, when we do that, we end up with 3307 times z minus 3307 is equal to 2756z minus 1. All right, sorry, I ran out of room down here with this part of the equation. All right, now what we need to do is basically move our z's to one side and everything else to the other. All right, so we'll subtract 2756z from both sides, giving us 551z, and we'll add 3307 to both sides so that the non-z term ends up on the other side, giving us 3306. Now, when we divide by 551, z divide by that by 551, and 3306 by 551, you end up with z is equal to 6. So we now know the charge of our P1 peak here. Well, from our simplified equation, we also know now, if we know z, we can now figure out what m is. So we know that 2755 times z is going to give us our mass. And so if we take our z value of 6, plug it in there, we now get m is equal to 2755 times 6, and our mass is therefore 16,530 daltons.